What breaks your heart? What breaks their hearts? We all see the world through a different lens. The key is, are we able to build a heartbreak bridge? That's our topic on this episode of the Educators Among Us podcast.
Welcome to the Educators Among Us podcast, where we share motivational messages and inspiring stories for and about educators. Your host, Scott Barron, is author of the critically acclaimed book, Love 'Em and Lead 'Em, and provides powerful insights and wisdom for those who heed the call to teach, coach, lead, and serve at all levels of education.
This is Scott Barron, and I'm honored to be your host for the Educators Among Us podcast, a really unique program because we speak into the lives of those who serve in all forms of education at all levels, really around the world. We have the privilege of sharing this message with those who work in the United States, in Canada, South America, Central America, even in Africa and Europe and other places and throughout Asia. And it's just a privilege. I had no idea that this program would take on the scope that it has. And it's just such an honor to be a part of the lives of so many educators, to be able to speak into their lives and to be able to provide some encouragement. We're actually speaking at a conference in England next month and able to share some of this perspective of really accepting that calling, that noble, incredible calling to be an educator. Wow, what a joy that is and a privilege it is. And so we're thankful that you make that commitment and that you're a part of just this effort to try to check our perspective, to gain a little insight as we go about the work and ensure that we're doing our absolute best because of the impact that we have on so many lives. This is not a subtle responsibility that we accept. We have influence over the lives of people in ways that very few have, and we accept that responsibility with wisdom and with commitment, and recognizing that we change lives. And so, thank you for your commitment to that work and wanting to be a part of a conversation to always grow and improve. That growth mindset, right? We talk about it, but doing it requires real habits of learning and growing, and so that's why we're here. Now, of course, the journey of educators, it inevitably involves heartbreak. Right. We see it as a part of our work with colleagues and with students and with parents, and just part of the journey of living and leading with people is that we go through different phases of life and we experience heartache. Sometimes it's caused through a breakup of relationship, or a divorce, or a death, or in the family, or the loss of something else that's very valuable, right? And they trust us to get them through the pain and the emotions of it all. Heartbreak. And of course, to do that, we have to be that trustworthy person who can walk that with them and love them through it and get them to the other side. And that requires a level of integrity, though, and responsibility that sometimes we can lose. It's not something we get by default. It's something that we do earn, and we have to be very wise with. It requires not only a wisdom but a grace, right? And so let's kind of explore that together. I love this quote from poet Pablo Neruda, who said, "If little by little you stop loving me, I shall stop loving you little by little. If suddenly you forget me, do not look for me, for I shall already have forgotten you." And that's the risk, right? That's the risk of becoming complacent, of forgetting why we do this and who we are, and is that we begin to allow those bridges, those heartbreak bridges, to fail. And that's a dangerous thing for us to do because so much of our work depends on those relationships, right? Sometimes life has cruel twists and turns, and it forces recovery from kind of agonizing sorrow at times. But heartbreak arrives in unexpected ways, and the pain, it can leave scars that change us, right? Sometimes we become a different person as a result of having gone through those journeys, and hopefully we're able to turn those into even to benefit and to blessing, even though it's very hard. What breaks our hearts? It's an important question, because if we're going to live in community, if we're going to be able to be there for each other, then understanding this critical question makes a big difference. But unfortunately, it's obvious that there can sometimes be no agreement on what brings grief, on what breaks our heart. And surprisingly, there's actually sometimes people actually derive pleasure and celebrate the pain, the misfortune, or the failure of others. This is real. It's known as schadenfreude, and it's a dangerous element, because when we become that callous, when we become so callous that we actually derive pleasure in other people's failure, that's a dangerous path, right? Because that callous and that coldness, it allows those bridges of relationships to collapse. And that's a real loss of influence in the lives of people that are so important to the work that we do, right? The shattering of a heart when being broken is the loudest quiet ever. It's from Carol Bryant. The shattering of a heart when being broken is the loudest quiet ever. You hear it. If you're sensitive, if you're aware, if that breaks your heart, right? Heartbreak doesn't have to be permanent, but it sure does feel like it in the moment, right? It feels like it's just so deep. It hurts so badly. Friends, they help us get through the adversity by being present, right? By being there with us and helping us through wisdom and through insights and just by listening. Right, just listening there and withholding judgment, stifling rebuke. Right, and they're not trying to help us solve it necessarily. They just want to be there with us. Right, but discovering that colleagues or others that are not only they're unwilling to reasonably share empathy. Right, discovering that people around us, they're not only unwilling to share empathy, but they're actually applauding the situation. They're actually celebrating what brings us grief. That's a shame. That destroys trust, and it fosters contempt. It is one of the worst scenarios for the culture of a school, and especially among the educators. Belonging based on the commitment to hate the same people, that's collective ignorance. You see, intelligence and wisdom should enable us to see the risks and the darkness of that approach. Rejoice. Rejoice with those who rejoice, and weep with those who weep. That's Apostle Paul in Romans 12:15, right? Only with integrity are we able to inspire a legacy of authenticity and moral courage. Integrity. Integrity it's doing what we know is right and true, even when we know no one else knows. Okay? It's hidden, but we still do the right thing. Integrity is disagreeing with honor and respect, refusing to compromise our values and beliefs. Right? We can have disagreement. We can have points that we maybe have conflict on, but we still find a unity. We still find a way to sustain those bridges, even the bridges through heartbreak. Integrity grows with the exercise of grace. As we decide to move towards others to reconcile division when every instinct and influence demands retreat or revenge. Everything around us is telling us to be outraged, to get them back, to say the things that that people get, they lose their perspective on a keyboard. Somehow they gain maybe it's courage. I would say it's foolishness because they're behind a device. Grace is only grace when it is unreasonable, when it's given, when it doesn't even make sense. That's love in its most courageous form. So, care. Care beyond reason this week, my friend. Building those bridges through heartbreak, proving wisdom and grace by your deeds. That's what highly effective educators do. Highly effective educators, they prioritize, right? They prioritize people and relationships over positions and being right. What breaks your heart? It matters. What breaks your heart is what breaks their heart. If you're wise and if you have grace. You see, we build heartbreak bridges. As you're going through this week, a coaching question to consider for yourself. Did I do my best to care beyond reason today? Did I do my best to care beyond reason today? Love him and lead him, my friend. This is Scott.
Thank you for joining us for the Educators Among Us podcast and for your courageous commitment to this noble calling. We get you and the challenges of this work. To stay connected with this community, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and weekly encouragement at educatorsamongus.com.